From KPFK in Los Angeles, California, Valley Free Radio in Florence, Massachusetts, WNUC in Detroit, and BikeTalk.org worldwide, this is Bike Talk.
Bike Talk.
Welcome to Bike Talk. I'm Taylor Nichols.
And I'm Nick Richard.
I'm getting ready for my trip, and my wife always says to me, you know, the best way to get a job is to plan a trip. And I'm not booking any jobs.
You're an actor.
Right. And I need a job. So I guess I am going to do this trip. I leave May 15th, and I leave from San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge to the Mackinac Bridge. I guess if I don't have a job, this trip is a great way to go, eh?
Yeah. So you're going to do it for Bike Month. The start is in May.
Right.
What a great time to do this. You're going to call in from the road?
I'm going to call in from the road, and I'm really looking forward to meeting people along the way. I'm going to go from San Francisco north into Oregon. Oregon, I'm going to go east across the Wind River Mountains and the northern tip of the Rockies into Montana and then into North Dakota. And I'm really looking to be in that part of the country. I've been in most other parts of the United States, but not really North Dakota and eastern Montana and all of that. So I'm looking forward to that. But I realized that a lot of the equipment that I have is from the 1970s when I was in high school. Wow. And so I'm having to get some new stuff. And it's expensive out there.
What equipment?
I have a tent from 1975 that I still use. That's a great tent, wow. But it's a little heavy and a little big. And I have a sleeping pad, like a Thermarest sleeping pad, that I showed to a friend of mine. He said, "Oh no, dude, you can't use that. You got to get these new fangled, Sea to Summit sleeping pads." So I'm gonna drop a little bit of money and buy a new sleeping pad. I was trying not to buy anything.
That's good. And you've been having weights?
I've been riding the bike with weights on the panniers. I have a buddy who's trying to keep me in shape or get me in shape. And it's really been fun. But, as we talk about how we're going to do the show, I'm not sure how the best way to document the trip is and the best way to share it is. And I wondered if any of our listeners have ideas about what's the best way to do it. Is it Instagram? My Instagram is taylor.nichols7, or do the Bike Talk Instagram, or I'm not sure. So if people have an idea, the best way to document and share some of the stories that I encounter along the way, I'd love to hear those ideas.
I use Blue Sky, but
right. A lot of people get involved in bike advocacy when they have children. I know I got very involved in bike advocacy when I had children. I know you were involved before you had your daughter, because you've been involved in bike advocacy for a long time. But we're going to talk really briefly with Alfonso Directo Jr., who is a parent, and his kids, he has two sons, age 8 and 6, and they are part of the Burbank bike bus. And I think most of our listeners know what a bike bus is. So Alfonso, welcome to Bike Talk.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. You're not just a parent, you're also in the Safe Street movement. Can you tell us what
Absolutely.
You do?
Yeah, I am also a transit advocate and affordable housing advocate with ACT LA. We're a coalition of 50 community organizations advancing transit justice as well as pushing for social housing. The bike bus wasn't my idea. It was actually the idea of a couple parents a couple years prior to me, Karen Lau, Melissa Hong, and Julian Crump here in Burbank. I moved here in 2023, and they were really welcoming to me, who wanted to put in some capacity to create this group bike ride, a bike bus to school for our kids and for the parents as well.
Great.
What's it like?
It's so much fun. So initially, 2 years ago, it was really twice a year. We did it the fall and spring. Last year we did fall and spring. This year we're doing it monthly. We have one more coming up on May 6th. And it's so much fun. We get about 30 participants on a regular basis. It's not a very long ride, but it kind of circles the neighborhood. So we initially had 2 routes, but now we have one route to be able to gather more people together and bike together more safely. Part of it is on the Chandler bike path. So we really benefit from the protected infrastructure there that we absolutely need more of. But then we also take the kids onto, and we ourselves ride on the street. So we make sure to teach in bike clinics that we also hold the sort of just the best practices of riding in the road with other cars and with other users, with drivers included. And one of my co-organizers, Craig Hampel with Walk Bike Burbank, he likes to joke that this is like the best traffic management tool that a city could really implement, because really it's calming the streets. We're going no more than, he says, 4 miles per hour or so. We've only had one driver, but for the 2 years, one driver who was really rude, but for the most of the 2 years, it really elicits a lot of smiles and waves from folks in the driver's seat of cars. So it's a lot of fun.
One of the strongest arguments for freeing up some of the space that's used for cars is for kids. How kids used to be more active, walking to school, more independent than they are now, and they have to be in a car to be safe from cars. So it seems like the best form of bike advocacy there is.
Absolutely, yeah. And independence, like teaching independence to children, is very much a part of the ethos behind why we did the bike bus, as well as for clean air reasons. And we had been recently recognized by Burbank City Council this past week on April 7th. The mayor of Burbank invited us in to City Council chambers, presented us with a certificate. And it was just a wonderful experience for us to get recognized, and for my children, actually, who gave public comment as well, as far as
great.
why they loved riding in the bike bus.
What do the kids think about it?
Yeah, so my older son said that he likes to be able to move his legs, get the energy out. And then my younger son said he likes the fresh air that he's able to breathe in when we're on the bike bus together. And we bike also, we bike to school every day. We're very, very lucky to be so close to school that we can do that. And we only cross one major street, but it's all an opportunity to teach how to ride safely. Yeah.
And we know kids who bike to school do better in school.
Yeah, the wellness is very evident, and it's so contagious. The number of bikes that are in the school on a regular basis has very much multiplied over the course of the year.
Yeah.
So we're buying another bike rack and installing it at the school. And the principal, Matt Osmond, has been amazing, supportive from day one for our air, positive for our neighborhood, and seeing more people bike and walk.
If someone wanted to start a bike bus at their elementary school, what advice would you give them?
I think it helps to have the support of the principal. Although we definitely made it clear that we were doing it on our own, right? It was the parents that were leading it. I would say talk to other parents who you see are riding to school already, and say, hey, it'd be fun to kind of do this together, maybe, once a month, or maybe we could do it, next month. And then it kind of just builds from there. It definitely takes a little bit of initiative to just talk to somebody, but at drop-offs, if you're walking or biking to school already, I think that's a wonderful opening to be able to get the momentum going.
Yeah, I always talk to other people on bikes. It's probably kind of annoying, but I do.
No, it's lovely. Yeah, I think, being able to say hello is just to our neighbors and to people in our neighborhood is really important. I think it creates the kind of environment that we need so badly in our country, and really creates a positive atmosphere for everybody.
Great. Well, Alfonso Directo Jr., thank you so much for the Burbank bike bus out of Roosevelt Elementary School. That's correct, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Roosevelt Elementary School. Yeah, and May 6th, if anybody wants to join, you can find us on the Roosevelt website. All right, talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bike bus is one way to get the word out there for safe streets, and another way is films. And there are 2 bike-related feature films hitting the big screens right now. Both are documentaries. One is a documentary about Major Taylor, of course, the famous African-American bicycle racer from the turn of the last century. It's called Champion of the Race. And it can be streamed. And we've got the link in our show notes, right, Nick?
Yeah. Did you mention it's Emmy nominated?
I did not, no.
Is it the Emmys?
Yeah. And the other one is a documentary called Changing Lanes. And it looks like really an interesting movie. And I got a chance to talk with the director, Ben Wolf, just for a second. He's going to be in Los Angeles. So here's Ben Wolf talking about some upcoming screenings of his documentary, Changing Lanes. We often talk about how my two favorite things are biking and film. And today we have also a biker and a filmmaker. Ben Wolf is with us, and he is the director of a new documentary called Changing Lanes. And I think it's really important because it's difficult to get our message out there sometimes. And sometimes the best way to do it is with film. Clarence Eckerson made that clear with street films. And Ben Wolf is with us here today. Ben, welcome to Bike Talk.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to do a bigger interview this Thursday after one of your screenings of Changing Lanes. But I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what Changing Lanes is and when it's screening in the Los Angeles area this coming week.
Sure. I would say I'm also someone who loves bikes and films, but this is more than a film about bikes. To me, it's a film about streets and all the different ways that streets are used,
Great.
Including pedestrians, cars, bikes, and how we balance all of these different demands on the street. The film focuses on a particular street in Brooklyn called McGuinness Boulevard, a particularly dangerous street, and the many years fight to sort of do something about the dangers the street manifested, and ends up being largely a movie about politics and about the different, the big fight to make something happen. And ultimately things do happen, but it's not a straight road. It's so to speak. It's
Totally
a lot of twists and turns, and I think quite an interesting story, and one that maybe has, I hope, larger implications about the way we get around cities and also about our politics.
right. Well, I think definitely there is a macro in the micro of looking at McGuinness Boulevard. And we've talked about that on Bike Talk before. And the old mayor of New York, Adams, was engaged in some maybe nefarious business dealing to keep it from happening. And hopefully now with the new administration, Mamdani, it will get done. But your film is really beautiful. And it came out last fall, right? It's played at a few festivals.
Yeah, it's been playing at festivals and sort of screenings for civic groups and colleges. The official commercial theatrical release is happening, starts this Thursday at the Laemmle Royal, and for the next 4 or so days after that, we'll be playing at 4 Laemmle theaters in the Southern California, the Glendale Theater, the Town Center 5, and the Monica Film Center. And I will be present at 3 screenings: the Thursday evening at the Royal, the Saturday morning at Glendale, and the Monday evening in Santa Monica.
Great, great. Well, you and I are going to talk more after the film on Thursday. Of course, Greg Laemmle, the owner of Laemmle Theaters, is a big cyclist and a supporter of Bike Talk. So I'm really glad that Laemmle Theaters are showing the film.
Yes.
Can you give times? Do you have the times so that people know, if people who are hearing the show on Thursday can plan some of those screenings?
The Thursday and Monday screenings are 7 p.m. screenings, and the Saturday screening in Glendale is a matinee, a 10 a.m. matinee. You can find all of the screening information on the Laemmle website. Also, there's a website for the film that links to that, which is changinglanesdoc.com.
You are a cinematographer by trade, and before we hit record, I had praised your work on the documentary Obit, which is not by, but sort of about Bruce Weber. And he's a cyclist too. He also wrote a book about cycling. So, Ben, thanks for wetting our whistle. I really look forward to seeing the film on Thursday, and I really look forward to talking to you in a little bit longer form after the film on Thursday, and we will have that on Bike Talk next week. So
Terrific.
The film is called Changing Lanes. The director is Ben Wolf, and as you said, it's about streets, not just bikes.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to meeting you in person in a few days.
Ben, thanks a lot.
Cheers.
We got a listener email, right?
Yes, from Julian, who was responding to the show where we had Asha Weinstein and Bob Middlestead on about e-bikes and peak power. He wrote, "Love the show. In 2612, you had guests on to discuss the Mineta Transportation Institute report on e-bikes. I thought most of the conversation was well-reasoned, but was a little surprised by the report author's discussion comparing e-bike power and speed to that of horses."
Yeah, he said this comes across as a sensationalized comparison, and we could also look at the author's comparisons to professional cyclists. That, he goes on to say that he can ride at about 800 watts for about 5 seconds. That's pretty good. I'm not even sure I can do 800 watts. As far as a professional cyclist, he writes, the point is that the authors are suggesting that these power figures are closer to a horse's figure when they are within the range of a human figure's. Even if we take the wheels off, Usain Bolt set the human absolute foot speed record at 27.56 miles per hour. That's right around the top motor-assisted speed of a legal e-bike.
He writes, "I think the biggest argument for not reducing the speed or power requirements for e-bikes is that, in the U.S. at least, we've not created a safe environment for ordinary cyclists to travel slower. 10 to 15 miles per hour is fine when you're sharing space with people on foot, but most of our streets and roads have cyclists traveling with drivers who are moving at 25 miles per hour or faster, and often much faster."
Well, I think that's totally true, yeah. Absent the political will to improve infrastructure or regulate car speed through hardware and software, e-bikes are one of the best ways to make bicycles compatible on otherwise incompatible streets and roads. That is a great point. He makes a great point. But he finishes the whole thing by saying, "Thanks for bearing with me. Love the show. And keep Charlie's news. It's a great segment."
Well, speaking of that, and thanks for your thoughts, Julian. I think we might have Asha and Bob back on, but we still have news.
Well, I want to say one more thing. The people that are writing us really are writing thoughtful, well-reasoned emails about important stuff in the show. And I think he makes a great point. E-bikes are important if bikes want to compete in the same space with cars.
And he's also arguing for for more power.
Right.
Which is, that is a controversial.
Right. Well, I would say just get an e-moto then and license it, wear a helmet.
Well, no, I mean, because the ones that go as fast as Usain Bolt are not e-motos. Those are the e-bikes that are in...
Yeah, class 3.
Yeah.
Well, Julian, thank you. And again, if you want to hear the episode that he was speaking about, that was episode 2612.
All right, so now here is Stacey with Charlie's news.
There you go.
I'm Stacey with this week's news. It looks like Hoboken, New Jersey's street improvements are rubbing off on its neighbor, Jersey City. The Heights neighborhood will receive its first protected bike lane along Franklin Street, according to Chris Fry of Jersey Digs. The Jersey City Council recently voted 8-1 to construct a two-way bikeway on the 6 blocks between Palisade and Central Avenues and the block connecting Pershing Field. Bids will be awarded in June, and construction is scheduled to begin in the fall. In advance of Bike Month, Motor City has made its bike lane data available on the city's open data portal, as reported by Randy Wembley of Detroit station WXYZ. The ArcGIS map shows a rainbow of ribbon options color-coded by type of lane. This type of map has the ability to smoothly zoom from building to the world level, which seems like an invitation for all municipalities to provide data to make a global map that could be filtered by type of bike lane. Perhaps one day. From Momentum magazine, Richmond, Virginia Cyclists crowdfunding campaign has purchased bike lane sweeping equipment to keep Richmond's bike lanes clear. John Murden and Dan Nelson raised over $6,000 in 1 week, enough to purchase a bike lane sweeper that tows behind an e-cargo bike to clear bike lanes. They've also set up the system as this is staffed by volunteers. This might be something that the city of Richmond adopts in the future now that they have a leader for the newly created Department of Transportation in Richmond. Local Richmond transportation engineer and celebrated social media urbanist Andy Bayneau has been appointed to helm this department. Richmond and Andy will be ones to watch.
Thanks, Stacey, for Charlie's news. I'm not sure how long that bit will last, but I like it.
Now we have a conversation with Alek Bartrosouf, who is running for Glendale City Council, Glendale, California. And he's a longtime Safe Streets activist, and he's bringing that to his run for City Council.
We often talk about how safe street advocates have to get involved in the fight on a political level. And we've talked about Glendale in the past a couple of times because Laura Friedman, who was from Glendale, is now in the U.S. Congress. Well, we have a new Safe Street advocate who is running for City Council in Glendale, and that's Alek Bartrosouf. Welcome to Bike Talk.
Thank you so much. Good morning. It's good to be here.
Good morning.
What got you running for City Council?
I'm a lifelong Glendale resident. I really care about this city and our community. And I have a master's degree in urban planning from UCLA. I do transportation planning specifically. I've been doing it for over 10 years as a profession. And I really feel strongly about the city having an obligation to make our streets safer for everybody. It's been a top concern of mine for a long time, and it's been a top concern for residents, as we've been hearing through various polls, both from the city and from other organizations, that traffic safety is top of mind, and I want to be part of the solution in addressing that issue.
Great, love that.
Last episode, we had Terrence Houston, who's been advocating for a protected bike lane on Sunset, and he has burned out as an advocate for safer streets. One of the things he says is happening is that there's this never-ending community input that's required to put any safe streets designs into effect. Even things that have already been approved in a mobility plan are hard to implement because they keep doing community outreach. Do you have thoughts about this thing where the community decides what makes a safe street?
Yeah, I mean, as an urban planner, part of our profession and part of our studies is that we do need to have a healthy interface and interaction with the community on about anything, not specific to traffic safety or street design, but the work that we do as planners, does involve and I think does require that there be some kind of communication and interaction with the community. In my line of work and what I've been doing for a very long time, I've come to understand that a lot of people get upset about things simply because they don't know about them or they aren't communicated to. And I think it goes a long way to have that community buy-in and community support. I think the way in which cities do outreach can be adjusted to be a little bit more efficient. But I do think there should be some component of outreach. We have an example here in Glendale where we were doing a road safety improvement project and the city decided to do like 15 community meetings for one single project. That's probably excessive and was probably taking a lot of city resources and staff time and just time in general. That's probably a little bit too much, but I do think we should have a healthy component of community engagement. It's a balance, you can't just come in and propose something or do something without communication, but you also don't want to see the opposite end of that, where you're just going on and on for years trying to do community engagement. That's just a symptom of the city and planners or engineers just not effectively communicating to the public. In the city of Glendale, we actually don't have a Department of Transportation. We have a Public Works Department and we have a Planning Department. And they kind of work in their own silos. We have lots of issues. The urban planners are not sitting next to the city engineers and helping develop these projects and plans. But what we can do better is have the two sit next to each other, bring together a Department of Transportation, and be able to have frank conversations about the condition of a street or the design of a street, and talk to people about what the safety issues are. I think we get a lot of distraction from, talking about bicycle lanes, and automatically that's triggering for a lot of people, why focus on bike lanes when it's 1% of the population. What I'd like to focus on is to say, a street that's safe for pedestrians or a street that's safe for bicyclists is a street that's safe for everybody. So that's kind of what I like to do in my approach and the way I communicate to people. That resonates with a lot of people. It kind of breaks down those barriers, diffuses the us versus them. It brings the community together.
I'm so glad you brought up the concept that a lot of people who are against these kinds of safe street improvements are ignorant, because I see that a lot in meetings. And I don't mean ignorant necessarily in a pejorative sense. I just mean they don't know that putting a bike lane on a street can increase business receipts and things like that, making it more livable. We had Michael Schneider on the show a while back, and he, of course, is the founder of Streets for All. And he said that the city of Los Angeles is losing grants to make streets safer because they are not implementing them fast enough. And I think that's because of this overwhelming outreach that we do. What are the specific things in Glendale that you want to see changed?
We are very good at adopting plans. We're not very good at implementing plans. I think we need to shift away our focus from planning into implementation. We've got all these really good planning documents like the local road safety improvement plan. We have a pedestrian master plan. We're now developing a Vision Zero plan. We have an outdated bike plan that is being updated now. But it's like we spend years and years doing the outreach, talking to people, developing these plans, and then they just, sit on a shelf and collect dust. I think this is part of the problem, is that we don't have a strong enough political will to implement these changes, because any change is difficult and any change needs to be explained to the community. And that's the hard part. And so what I would like to do is be very aggressive about getting that grant funding, be very aggressive about getting those metro local return dollars and putting them to good use. We need to implement more high visibility crosswalks. We need to look at bicycle facilities. We need to look at signal phasing changes to reduce conflicts with pedestrians and left turners. There's a lot of things that we know we need to fix. It's just a matter of making sure that those transportation dollars, those grant funds, general fund monies are funneled into that issue of implementing those plans. I think that's where the bottleneck is.
So you're running for Glendale City Council. We would be happy to have you, even though I'm not a resident of Glendale, but I'd be happy that you were there. And how's it going?
Our city council election is on June 2nd. It's during the state primary. Our election is one and done, so we don't have a primary ourselves. It's an interesting race. We have 12 candidates running for 3 council seats. There are 2 incumbents running, and the other 10 candidates, me included, are running for a seat as well. It's a very interesting field of candidates, many of which don't have any government experience. I'm certainly the only city planner in the field. Interesting cast of characters that are running, some of which are trying to inject national politics into local government. It's a little worrisome. I'm concerned for the city and the direction that it could be going, and it is part of the reason why I'm stepping up. And ballots will arrive in people's mailboxes in early May. So we're about 2 or 3 weeks away from people having the ability to vote.
I don't know who the other 11 candidates are, but if anyone is running for Glendale City Council, we would love to have you on the show also. And as you said, Alek, the voting starts soon. But it seems to me that if you're concerned about, a livable community and safe streets, the stuff that you're talking about sounds like it's moving in the right direction to me. When Laura Friedman ran for Congress, her opponent tried to paint her as the bike lane lady, and she won. Do you see any advantage being a safe streets advocate, or is that a liability?
I think it can cut both ways. I was part of Walk Bike Glendale. It's a local group that has been advocating for safer streets for 15 years. And people are trying to label me as the bike lane guy as well. Actually, the person you're referring to is now running for city council. So he's jumping around from election to election, trying to get a seat somewhere. They're trying to label me as that person for their convenience and for their political benefit. But I've been doing this professionally for a very long time. This issue is personal to me as somebody who's always walking on the streets of Glendale, and I'm very concerned about my elderly in-laws crossing Glenoaks Boulevard along a corridor, which is, one of the most dangerous corridors in the city of Glendale. So I want to be part of the solution. There's a lot of people who are kind of sowing division and using bike lane rhetoric as a way to advance their own causes. It's unfortunate, but I'm steaming ahead and I feel good about the way that I am interacting with voters. And, there is a universal understanding that something needs to change and our streets need to be safer.
We say all the time that advocates and people listening to the show have to vote to make changes happen in their own communities. Alek Bartrosouf is running for city council in Glendale. If you are in that region, do your research and vote for safe streets.
If you're interested and want to learn more, you can find me. It's Alek with a K, alekforglendale.com. You can learn more about the campaign. You can chip in if you like. You can volunteer. You can ask me questions. Happy to interact with folks who want to learn more about the race.
Alek, thanks a lot for running and thanks for coming on Bike Talk.
Thank you guys so much. Good to talk with you.
Absolutely.
People like Laura Friedman proved that marrying yourself to bicycles and safe bicycle infrastructure can be a winning plan. And I hope Alek, as a safe street advocate, will embrace bicycles' role in making streets safer.
If you don't know who Laura Friedman is, search up Laura Friedman on Bike Talk. She was state assembly member for a long time, and she was a bike advocate. And now she's member of Congress.
And she often says Bike Talk is her favorite podcast.
She has said it at least twice.
Yes. Well, that's often, right?
For a congressperson.
Next up is Dane Cash from Escape Collective. And Dane is a bicycle racing reporter. And we're right in the middle of the classics, which are the really great one-day races. And those are before the Grand Tour. So this is Dane Cash talking about why bike racing is so cool. One of the great things about Bike Talk is I get to talk to a lot of really cool people. And one of my favorite people to talk to is Dane Cash. And Dane is the news editor of Escape Collective. And if you don't know, Escape Collective is, well, Dane, welcome back to Bike Talk. Tell me what Escape Collective is exactly, because I've just spent about a half hour cruising around on the site again. And I love it because it's all bikes, all bike racing.
It is. It's what it's everything cycling, particularly road cycling. We dabble in a couple other things as well. Gravel and mountain bike. And my beat is very much the bike racing aspect, the competitive, the pro cycling, mostly European racing. But there's other people who are purely they're covering the tech and the industry side of stuff. So yeah, lots of different things going on there. And I. My little corner of that is, well, right now it's the classics. It's Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix, which is my favorite bike racing of the whole season.
Yeah. We are recording this in early April, and the Tour of Flanders was last week, and Paris-Roubaix is coming up. So tell us a little bit about, because, most of our audience are advocates and sport writers. And I think we have a few, hardcore racers, but I think the main part of our audience are advocates. So what is it about bike racing that is so effing cool?
Well,
yeah, and Dane, just so you know, we're on the radio also. That's why I say effing.
Yeah, effing. Right. Sure. I think to those who are unfamiliar with it, I think a lot of times it gets kind of lumped in with endurance sports. So it's just another endurance sport.
Right.
But there's so many aspects of it that are a lot more like motorsports. There's strategy, technology, drafting is such a huge part of it that I mean, it kind of boils down to the fittest person doesn't always win. It's not just an exercise contest, is something that we like to say
Right.
at Escape. And that means that there's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of, you can't always predict who's going to win. I say that. And at the moment, we're in this era where there is a pretty dominant rider.
Yeah, where you actually can predict.
Yeah. And they win more than kind of we've ever seen. Like the regularity with which they win is pretty surprising. And that's actually unusual for the sport because generally it is hard to predict.
Right.
And even when they do win, a lot of times there's tactics involved. There's a lot of unpredictability, and particularly this time of year. Another reason to watch the bike races in Northern Europe, in Belgium in particular, and just over the border in France, the fans are rabid. I mean,
Right.
it's a for if you're an American, I think the best way to maybe think about this, it's like a college football atmosphere, but for cycling, which is
Right.
just so weird if you're an
Yeah.
American to think of that. But it really is. I mean, there's guys out on their lawn with kegs enjoying the sports, but they're on bikes, which,
Right.
again, that's amazing if you're into
Right.
cycling.
Right. I think you're talking about Tadej Pogačar, the
Yes,
guy who is
indeed.
sort of at the pinnacle of bike racing now. And what is always amazing to me is bike racing is so different. Climbing, sprinting, long races, short races, and he seems to kind of win them all.
He does. It's extremely unusual in the modern era. Basically, since maybe the 70s, the specialization is getting more and more acute. And
Right.
so riders who specialize in something like the Tour de France, or the other two big ones are the Giro d'Italia and the Vuelta a España, the Tours of Italy and Spain. If you're good at those, you have to be a pretty light guy.
Right.
Or gal, by the way.
Right.
This is true on the women's side as well.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the women because the woman who won Flanders just recently is pretty amazing.
And similarly, it's evidence of this sea change that's happening because the woman who won the Tour of Flanders she's a Tour de France winner. She's a Tour de France. She's one of the best climbers in the world. And there was for a long time when I got into the sport, you would not see Tour de France winners contending at the Tour of Flanders because the Tour of Flanders is this race where the race is decided on these steep but very short relative to like the Alps climbs. Obviously, if you have a familiarity with the European geography, there's no big mountains in Belgium.
Right.
There's some hills, and they throw cobblestones at them. I mean, not literally. They ride on cobblestones to make this more interesting. And being a small climber is not always the best way to be if you're going on these roads. And yet, here in 2026, both the men's and women's Tours of Flanders were won by Tour de France winners, which is just unusual, really, really unusual.
Right.
And Pogačar is really sort of leading this charge of versatility, taking us out of that era of specialization and back to, like back in the 70s, you did have riders who could win both.
Eddie Merckx
is the big one, right? And he's sort of he's like the Babe Ruth of cycling.
Sure.
There's this guy from a bygone era who is and will always be the best ever in most people's eyes. Like there's kind of nobody can come close. But now you got a lot of people starting to wonder if Pogačar really maybe he is matching him, and it's a testament to how special he really is.
And I think when Lance Armstrong was dominating the Tour de France, he didn't even ride in these races.
Correct. Yeah. And so he was early in his career. He was winning some of the one-day races that are very climber friendly.
Right.
But something like Flanders is a step too far, and Roubaix, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is a whole further step in this opposite direction from the Tour de France.
Right.
And the fact that Pogačar is contending there is something. Yeah, it's pretty much unheard of since the 70s. It's just we just don't see it in the contemporary cycling era.
Right.
He's just got that versatility that is really special.
Right.
The Tour de France, if you're a big guy, that's a huge detriment because you got to haul yourself up the Alps and the Pyrenees.
And the Pyrenees.
And if you're a big guy at Roubaix, that's great because there's gravity's not the problem at Roubaix.
Right.
And so it makes for a very unusual, unique race. The riders are trying to get away from each other on these cobbled sectors, and to be good on those is such a unique skill set, and they're so challenging to ride. I would definitely encourage anyone with a sense of adventure to someday get out there and try to go to Belgium and go to France and try to ride on the cobbles there. It's a really magical experience, and it is unbelievably hard.
I'm sure
to ride a road bike on particularly Roubaix. The Roubaix cobbles are the gold standard for really, really hard to ride. They actually
they're hard to
curated
walk on.
to be hard.
Yeah.
So
well, what I like about both those races is there are so many races within the race itself, and I wonder if you could sort of explain that.
Yeah. So like with every race, you get the early breakaway, right? Again, coming down to the basic physics aspect, like if you're a favorite to win, you're going to spend most of the day riding in that big ball of riders, the peloton, right? Because you want to save energy by drafting on others. So you get that breakaway early on, which is a small group that leaves the peloton behind, and the peloton accepts the status quo of this for a couple of hours.
Right.
And then they gradually bring these guys back, and then you get sort of a whole new race where people try to attack out of the peloton. And so there's all kinds of things that go into finally actually leaving the peloton behind, which is ultimately how the races are won.
Right.
It's by leaving everybody else behind. You've got teammates, right? So you've got 7 other guys who, or in this case, I guess it's 6 other guys who are setting you up for your big attack, or they're just hammering at the front for hours trying to wear everyone else out. And that's what Pogacar's team does. They hammer at the front for hours. They wear everybody else out. And then what they really like to do is they send one of their last remaining guys to the front to just go all out right before Pogacar makes his own attack, so that everybody's tired. And Pogacar included. I mean, he has to follow these as well,
right?
But he's good, so he can.
Yeah.
And then if you manage to get clear of the rest of the field, then you got to hold on, and you're not benefiting from drafting if you're by yourself, and the guys behind you are. And then there's always the fun aspect of, well, what if there's a couple of people who are off the front, and then there's that question: are they going to work together? Take turns at the front pulling for each other, or are they going to play games? And
partly because if they don't work together, their chances of getting caught by the peloton are much greater, right?
And that makes it much more fun for post race analysis. So like this is what I do every week is the race happens, and then an hour and a half later, I hop on a show and break down the action, and it's always this is one of the big things that always gets talked about is did they do enough work together? Did so and so do too much work? Because another aspect, game within the game here is some riders are much better at sprinting than others.
Right.
So if there's 2 guys who are together nearing the finish, then if one of them is clearly a better sprinter, then he's the favorite to win in the end.
Right.
And the other one has to try to leave him behind before they get to that finish, or he's just going to get out sprinted. So there's another game within a game, and then it's always, did he do too much work? Did he do too much collaboration? Should he have been trying to attack more? So there's all kinds of fun storylines there, and that's again, it's not always about who has the most watts per kilogram, right? It's a lot more intricate than that.
I always love it when there's a guy kind of sitting on someone's wheel, and the people in front are, flicking their elbows, saying, "Come on, man, take your turn."
Wildly gesticulating.
Says, no.
That's the most fun part of cycling. And there's a whole social element. There's politics involved. If you do that enough, you get a reputation as someone who doesn't work for others.
Right.
Then you might, preemptively have people not wanting to hang out with you out front.
No one
they
sits
know
with
you're
you
not
at
gonna
dinner.
work. Exactly. So it's a lot of things going on in every race, and that's what makes it so entertaining.
Yeah. Well, tell me who we should watch this year besides Demi Vollering, who is the woman that won Flanders, and Pogacar, the guy that won Flanders and has won the Tour so many times. Who else should we be watching for?
Well, the men's race, this is what makes Roubaix so unique. Pogacar's going to be the favorite for pretty much every race he races this year.
Although he's not won that one, right?
He has not won this one, and he's not actually the bookie's favorite. It's close.
Right. And
nobody will be surprised if he wins, but he's not the favorite. He's not the defending champion. The defending champion is the favorite to win, and that's Mathieu van der Poel.
Right.
Van der Poel's a 3-time winner. He is the other great classics rider of this generation. He's a bit more of a traditional classics rider in that he has no chance of winning the overall at the Tour de France.
Right.
He's a big guy. He's not going to beat Tadej Pogacar in the high mountains, but he is really, really good on this terrain. Pogacar beat him last week in Flanders. But at Roubaix, where there is zero climbing, Pogacar's inherent advantage there is neutralized.
Okay.
And then it's a kind of a it's more of Vanderpool's territory. So Vanderpool's actually the slight favorite in this race. He's the one that I think everybody will be watching about as much as Pogačar. And then behind them, there's some sort of second-tier favorites. There's certainly riders that I think a lot of fans will want to see win. I think the big one there would be Wout van Aert.
Sure, love him.
He's a long-time classics veteran. He's only won one of the 5 monuments, which is the biggest one-day races.
Right.
Even though he's been so close so many times. And Roubaix seems like the one he may have the best chance of winning right now. He's kind of an outsider compared to those top 2 Vanderpool Pogačar names, but he's just been at it so long, and I think a lot of fans would love to see him win. Mess Peterson is another Danish guy, similar to Van Aert in that he's knocking on the door of one of these wins for a while. Vanderpool's got a teammate who's really good, Jasper Philipsen, which is an extra added bonus for him having that. The big favorites are Vanderpool and Pogačar, but those are the other outsiders. And the thing with Roubaix is these cobbles are so brutal that guys break their bikes.
Yeah,
that's and they crash all the time. So it's the race with the most potential for just absolute chaos and unpredictability. And so even if Pogačar and Vanderpool are having a great day, one moment they could be off the front and about to win the race, and the next moment they're in a ditch. That happens. Yeah. So you do get the chance for outsiders.
And just so people know, the whole race is not on cobbles. There are like 20 sections of cobbles, and the riders know where they are, and then they race to get to the cobbles first, so they're not like last in line, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, position is extremely important on the cobblestones. You kind of need to be near the front for the big sector. So I think there's 28, give or take 2 or 3, and they're all sort of rated.
Right.
They get star ratings of how hard they are. And there's 3 5-star sectors, and basically you need to be very close to the front on those 5-star sectors because it's really hard to move up through to weave through other riders when you're in there. And so if somebody puts in an attack on those sectors and you're 100 yards behind them, you got no chance.
Right.
So yeah, it's all about the positioning going into those sectors. That's where teammates can be really helpful, pulling you up. Again, I just encourage people, if you ever get a chance to go, seeing them in person it's really special. It's really hits home how hard it is. I mean, the one that is, I think, the real experience is the Arenberg Trench. It's actually quite a ways out from the finish. It's like the first really, really, really hard sector they hit. And it's in this forest, a very dense forest, where the road is pretty narrow. The cobbles are absolutely just like the roughness. You got to be there to see how rough they are. And it's so claustrophobic because you get just thousands of people lining the roadside, cheering you on. And it's just a completely otherworldly experience. And it's where a lot of, people's races, they end because first of all, they get dropped. Or second of all, they break their wheels when they hit the Arenberg. I mean, it's that serious.
Wow. So anyway, and when you say narrow, it is like 6 or 7 feet wide in some spots, I think. Is that about right?
I think that's about right. I'm trying to think. That sounds about right. 6, 7, maybe a little more, but not a lot more. And you're getting bounced around on these cobblestones. So for mere mortals, it's pretty hard to ride these sectors. I've ridden some of the other 5-star sectors, and they're hard enough without that added element of like claustrophobia.
Right.
So anyway, but it's really something else, really special, really entertaining. I mean, some people would say it's too chaotic, even like it's so unpredictable.
Right.
But it's also extremely entertaining, and
totally.
and they've been doing it for I'm checking 123 years now. I mean, there's also that history element which makes it really great. That it's been around for so long. Of course, the flip side of that is that on the women's side, the women have had a Paris-Roubaix for, what are we at, 4 years now? It's a very new thing.
Right.
Actually, we're a little more than that. I guess this is maybe the 6th or the 7th edition, but still, it's very new. The women didn't have a Paris-Roubaix for the longest time, and it was one of the big ones that we were just waiting to finally get a women's race.
Right.
So it's really, really exciting that's part of the women's calendar now as well. So yeah.
Well, I love that. Who are the Americans that we should be watching?
Yeah. So. There's so many good climbers right now in the American sphere. But in this race, Magnus Sheffield, Riley Sheehan, Luke Lamperty, they're all good riders. that I've mentioned, but I don't think any of them is really going to challenge the big names. And the same on the women's side. So we should say the women's favorites, you're talking riders like Lorena Wiebes and Lotte Kopecky is maybe the big one. Elisa Longo Borghini. So Dutch, Belgian, Italian riders. And again, there's some very talented women. But I think as far as Americans go, this is not really a race you're going to see a lot of them.
Right.
I think another part of it is just if you're a bike racer in America, you're so used to our wide open roads.
Sure.
And the cobbles, narrow streets, that's a whole other racing world, and it's just kind of hard to get used to for some of them. Now, I should say Chloe Dygart's got the power.
Right.
Her power numbers and skill set in general are pretty compatible with this kind of racing. I mean, she was top 10 last year at Roubaix. But yeah, just in general, it is not an area where you've seen a lot of Americans have a lot of success recently.
Right.
Most races are on either Peacock or HBO Max.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay.
So if you're a fan of The Office or Parks and Rec or Community, and you already have Peacock, then you head on over and watch the bike race, right?
Perfect.
And ditto, if you got HBO for Game of Thrones, then you can watch a lot of races as well.
Dane, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to talk to someone who is so excited about it, because I'm excited about it. And if you've ever been in a group ride on Saturday morning in your own town and, tried to break away from the peloton of your little group, it is difficult to do. And you magnify that 10 times or 100 times, and that's what the pros are like. So it's just really exciting.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can come back and we can talk about the Grand Tours. I know that the Giro starts in May, I think. And the Tour, of course, is in July, and then the Vuelta is in the end of August. And
yeah, looking forward to that. I'd love to talk more, because it's a fun shift. We get generally a pretty different cast of characters that are contending in those races. Again, except for the fact that a little bit more and more now, Tadej Pogacar, Demi Vollering, you're going to see them in Grand Tours.
Right. Yeah. You can also go to Escape Collective.
EscapeCollective.com. We got plenty of written coverage of all the racing. I'll be doing lots of that this weekend. We got a whole bunch of podcasts as well. So I do a show, How the Race Was Won, with Cosmo Catalano, where we just sort of break down all the action right afterward. But it's a great time. Great time to be a bike racing fan.
Great. Dane Cash, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Taylor.
We know who won Paris-Roubaix now. It was Wout van Aert. And the bicycle world is head over heels happy for this guy, because he is one of those bicycle racers that everybody loves, but he has struggled to win the big ones. And he won a big one on Sunday by beating Tadej Pogacar right at the finish line. A really exciting race.
Wow, cool. I'm glad you're covering it.
I'm going to get you hooked on it.
Well, you better. You need to do more than just. Okay, no, bring it on.
Okay.
Good show.
I think so. We want to thank our guests: Ben Wolf of Changing Lanes, Alfonso Directo Jr. of the Burbank Bike Bus, Dane Cash of Escape Collective, and Julian, who wrote the email. And of course, we always want to thank our regulars: Julie Richard, Josh Hagland, Lindsay Sturman, Stacey Randecker. Do we still say Charlie Lighthizer or not?
Yeah, he's still with us for a week.
Okay, Charlie Lighthizer, Josh Hagland, Kevin Burton, and Amy Zirin. Did I get them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a quote. Do you?
I got one. This energetic bike ride is sponsored by my cup of coffee. And that is so true.
Do people who ride like a lot and go far and go fast, do they drink coffee? Or
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, okay. I think it was one of the first drugs that cyclists used. Caffeine.
Just did those like energy shots.
In fact, there's a great story about Floyd Landis, one of my favorite pro bike racers from the 2000s, 2005 or 2004, when Lance Armstrong was still winning all the Tour de France's. Landis drank like 6 shots of espresso one day when they were all sitting around a coffee shop in Girona, Spain. And I think people just bet him, how many shots of espresso can you drink? And I think he holds a record of some sort. But that was Floyd Landis when they were on the Postal team, I think. I can't really remember which team they were on at the time. So to answer your question, yes, coffee is Good.
All right, one last thing. There's a bill by New York City Councilmember Lincoln Restler to put a cap on city bike fees to make them cost the same as a bus or subway, no matter how far you're going. Lincoln lays out his bill himself.
When the G train shut down, the best way to get around is a city bike. But to bike from Greenpoint to downtown Brooklyn can cost $7, $8, even $10. It's just too much. For 5 years in a row, City Bike has jacked up its fees every single year. We have the most expensive bike share program in the entire world. The cost of a city bike shouldn't be a penny more than it takes to ride a subway or a bus. And we've introduced legislation to mandate exactly that, to ensure that it's $3 to ride your city bike, whether you're biking to Crown Heights, to Greenpoint, to Williamsburg, wherever you may be going. City Bike is the best way to get around.
Ride safe.
Bike Talk is a project of CRSP and the Los Angeles Eco Village Institute.
This episode of Bike Talk is sponsored by the law offices of Pocras and De Los Reyes, with offices in Los Angeles and Bakersfield and serving all of Southern California.
And that was Bike Talk. If you have a story, a tip, or a topic, head over to biketalk.org and send us a message. Talk again next week.
Sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, get on your bike. Sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around. Get that car out of my way, I wanna ride my bike today. It keeps me fit, gets me there, I won't go stinking up the air. Leave behind the daily grind, let your mind unwind. If it's life, pretend to life, better get yourself a bike. Got yourself a bike. Oh, 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 got yourself a bike.